Hi guys, this is Shreyas and today I will be talking about Linux booting process. Before we talk about the booting process, let us first understand where we use it. We use booting process in our operating system. An operating system, OS, is a low-level software that manages resources, controls peripherals, and provides basic services to other softwares. In Linux, there are 6 distinct stages in the typical booting process. At first, we have the BIOS. BIOS stands for Basic Input Output System. In simple terms, the BIOS loads and executes the master boot record (MBR). When you first turn on your computer, the BIOS first performs some integrity checks of the HDD or SSD. Then, the BIOS searches for loads and executes the bootloader program, which can be found in the master bootloader MBR. The MBR is sometimes on a USB stick or a CD-ROM, such as a live installation of Linux. Once the bootloader program is detected, it's then loaded into memory and the BIOS gives the control of the system to it. Now let us talk about MBR. MBR stands for Master Boot Record and is responsible for loading and executing the grub bootloader. The MBR is located in the first sector of the bootable disk, which is typically /dev/HDA or /dev/SDA depending on your hardware. The MBR also contains information about the grub or LILO in very old systems. As you can observe in this diagram, the MBR or the master boot record sits above the partition table, bootstrap code and the boot signatures. Next, let us talk about grub. Grub bootloader, sometimes called as GNU grub, which is short for GNU Grand Unified Bootloader, is the typical bootloader for most modern Linux systems. The grub splash screen is often the first thing you see when you boot your computer. It has a simple menu where you can select some options. If you have multiple kernel images installed, you can use your keyboard to select the one you want. You can use your keyboard to select the one you want your system to boot with. By default, the latest kernel image is selected. The splash screen will wait for a few seconds for you to select an option. If you don't, it will load the default kernel image. In many systems, you can find the grub configuration file at /boot/grub/grub.config or /etc/grub.config. Here is an example grub.config file. And this is how a grub menu looks like. Up next we have the kernels. Now let us talk about the kernels. The kernel is often referred to as the core of any operating system, Linux included. It has complete control over everything in your system. In this stage of your booting process, the kernel that was selected by grub first mounts to the root file system that's specified in the grub.config file. Then it executes the /sbin/init program, which is always the first program to be executed. You can confirm this by its process ID, PID, which should always be 1. The kernel then establishes a temporary root file system using the initial RAM disk, init_rd, until the real file system is mounted. Here, in this diagram, you can observe that kernel sits between the application, which is the software, and the CPU, memory and devices, which are the hardware. Now, let us talk about the init. Your system executes run-level programs. At one point, it would look for an init file, usually found at /etc/init tab, to decide the Linux run level. Modern Linux systems use systemd to choose a run level instead. According to TechMint, these are the available run levels. Now, before we talk about run levels, let us first understand what run level programs are. A run level system is a state of init and the whole system that defines what system services are operating. Run level are identified by numbers. Some system administrators use run levels to define which subsystems are working. Example, whether X is running, whether the network is operational, and so on. Now let us talk about the run levels. Run level 0 is matched by poweroff.target. Run level 1 is matched by rescue.target. Run level 3 is emulated by multi-user target. Run level 5 is emulated by graphical target. Run level 6 is emulated by reboot target. Emergency is matched by emergency.target. That's it about run level programs, and this is all about the Linux booting process. Thank you.